All right, page 3 of 3, breakdown for test 2, part 1 for the math section of the digital practice test. Now, remember we did the easy questions, pretty much questions 1 through 10, but we felt that the questions were getting a little slick when we got to questions 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we did the second page, which was questions 11 through 20, and we felt the slickness of those questions. Now we get into the slicker questions. So these questions are considered like hard questions, but they're really not that hard. It's just you've gotten a little rusty or dusty working these type of questions. And you're going to have to practice so that you can learn to recognize and react appropriately to these questions. All right, let's take a look at question 21. Now, question 21, we can expect it to be a little bit dicey. That's when you're digging deeper into the digital exam. They're telling us that y is equal to a negative 1.5, but they're also telling us that y is equal to x squared plus 8x plus a. All right, so we know we can set these equal to each other, right? So I could just say, well, I'll take upstairs and just have it equal, right, a negative 1.5. So I can set it up that way, but let's go into the question and see what they're giving us that's dirty. In the given system of equations, A is a positive number, all right? The system has exactly, here it is, has exactly one distinct real solution. Whenever you see those words, it can say has exactly one distinct real solution, or it can say it has exactly two distinct solutions, or it can say it has exactly no real solutions. Whenever you see these words that I've underlined or the other two sets of words, then you're dealing with what's called a discriminant. And that is, remember your quadratic formula? Underneath the radical, you have b squared minus 4ac. Now they're asking for one real solution. So if we took b squared minus 4ac and we set it to equal 0, that would give us one real solution. If we set it to be greater than 0, what if I repeated the equation, I've set it greater than 0, that would give us two real solutions. If I set it to be less than 0, that would give us no real solution. So which one are we going to use among the three? We'll use the very first one that I had written. So we'll get rid of these two. And then we have to figure out what is our A value, our B value, and our C values. Remember what they are. So what's our A value? Our A value would be this guy right here. We have our B value, which would be a positive 8. And then we have our C value so far for the second equation. But don't forget they had to have it set to equal a negative 1.5. So we haven't set it up in standard form yet. We're going to have to add that 1.5 to both sides. So this is what we're going to be looking at. X squared. So I'm taking all this, right? And I'm going to move the negative 1.5. So it's going to be x squared plus 8x. Now I'm adding the positive 1.5 to both sides. That cancels out. So it's going to be a plus, ready, plus a plus 1.5. And then we set that sucker to equal 0. You with me so far? All right. Now, what is our A value? Now we do it again. Our A value is implied that it is 1. What is our B value? It'll be a positive 8. Now what is our C value? Here's the dirty part. Our C value is actually A plus 1.5. Now let's go into the equation and plug in our values. So we're dealing with 8 squared minus 4 times A. What is our A value? It's just 1. And what is our C value? Our C value, don't forget, it's A plus 1.5. Ta-da! And of course, it's set to equal 0. So once we solve for A, we've got our answer. All right, let's carefully break this down. Now, with Desmos in your computer or your own personal calculator, this will be faster. I'm doing it by hand. So we have 64. What's a negative 4 times 1? It's going to be a negative 4. What's a negative 4 distributed across A plus 1.5? That's going to be a minus 4a. Wait, negative. Oh, what am I doing? Oh, duh. Hold on. So negative 4 times 1 is the negative 4. Then we distribute your negative 4 going all the way across. I shouldn't even have written down that 4. Negative 4 times what? Negative 4 times a. That would be a negative 4a. And a negative 4 times 1.5, which would be a negative 6. Set it to equal 0. Now we can simplify. What are we going to do with that negative 6? We're going to subtract it from 64. So what is 64 minus 6? That's going to equal a nice fat 58. And then we still have our negative 4a. Set it to equal 0. Now how do we solve for a? We'll add 4a to both sides. See, they're testing your mechanics. So now our final answer is going to be 58. That cancels out, is equal to 4a. Now what does a equal? We take our 4 divided by both sides. That would cancel that. So what is 54 divided by 8 equal to? You could do the whole thing with the calculator. You're going to get 4 goes into 5 one time, carry the 1, 4 goes into 18 4 times, and you have 2 left over, so it'd be 14.5. So this is the answer to question number 21. If you're going to leave it in fractional form, we could reduce it by dividing upstairs by 2 and downstairs by 2. So your answer can also be 29 over 2. So either of those two answers would work. And technically, this should work also. But I would reduce it just a little bit into 14.5 or 29 over 2, which is the same as 14.5. And that's it. That's the answer to the stupid question number 21, in which I call this a slick question that you should get used to, especially if you want to break your 600 and go for a 650 plus. All right, let's go to question number 22. Question number 22, they're showing us a function. All right. A polygon, all right, no problem. Now they say the function f is given. Which table of values represents y equals f of x minus 3? Okay, now notice they're messing with this. What I underline in red, right? What I underline in red, all this stuff. If we were to FOIL all that business, it would give us the answer to f of x, right? Now look at the second part. It says, which table of values represents y equals f of x? But then they include minus 3. That was not upstairs in the original equation. So that's the dirtiness of this question. This will trap a lot of students. All right, I'm going to show you how to kill this, okay? I'll show you how to kill this. As a side note, right, if we wanted to find out what our x values are, if we set all of it to equal 0, right? What if we set all of this to equal 0? So what's going to be our first step? We could take the x plus 6 and set it to equal 0. And it's going to give us x equals a negative 6. Notice your answer choices. They show you x values. And what did they show you? Negative 6, negative 6, negative 6, negative 6. What if we took x plus 5, set it to equal 0? What is x going to equal? So x plus 5, so visually, x plus 5 equals 0. So x is going to equal, subtract 5 from both sides, equals a negative 5. Notice negative 5, negative 5, negative 5. Negative 5. Same thing with x minus 4. We're going to get a positive 4. We got positive 4, positive 4, positive 4, positive 4. If any of those is showing me something the opposite, I would cross it out as an answer choice. Now, here's where students get stuck. They're like, all right, well, I figured out what x would be if I set it to equal 0, but what's up with that negative 3? Your answer is B. Why? If I were to take a negative 6 for x and plug it into the equation, I'm going to get a negative 6 plus 6, which is going to equal a nice fat 0. Now, what does 0 times x plus 5 equal? 0. And then I get another 0. That means that 0 times x minus 4 is going to equal 0. So, but if I were to go at the end and add a 3, then it would equal 0 plus 3, which equals 3. And what kind of a 3? It's going to equal, oh, wait a minute. Let me see. It would equal, oh, wait. Let me erase this because I thought I saw oh, it's minus. If I subtracted, my bad. If I took 0, the final answer, using negative 6, then I would have to do what? Then I would have to subtract 3. So what is 0 minus 3? Negative 3. Whoop. If I did the same thing with the negative 5, right? If I plugged in negative 5 into the original equation right here, I'm going to get negative 5 plus 5, which equals a fat 0. If I multiplied it by x plus 6, I'm still going to get 0. And then what's 0 times x minus 4? It would equal 0. But I have to subtract 3. And what's my final answer going to be? A negative 3 again. Get it? And then the same thing would happen to 4 if you plugged in 4. So therefore, B is your answer to this stupid question. It's a dirty question. So far we saw question number 21, which is slick, and 22, I'm going to call it dirty. Because a lot of students will get a little trapped by this. But now that you've experienced it, realize that it ain't so hard after all. Now, all the other answer choices, if I were to put these guys into the formula, I'm going to wind up with 0. But don't forget, I have to subtract 3 for each one of those. So if I got 0 for A here, I have to subtract 3. Am I going to get a negative 9 as an answer? No. If I subtract the 3, when I plug this in, I'm going to get 0 for the entire equation. Now I subtract 3. Am I going to get negative 8? Of course not. And of course, am I going to get a positive 1 by subtracting 3? No. That's why B is your answer. Same would apply to C and D. All right, question number 23. For the function q, the value of q of x decreases. All right, I like these because we've been talking about this in class. Decreases by 45% for every increase in the value of x by 1. So notice your answer choices. They're just formulas. We don't have to come up with an answer like plugging in numbers and then it gives us an answer. No, we don't have to do that. They're giving you the formula, q of x. It decreases by 45%. What does that mean? Ready? So if you were to take your function q, right, we want to figure out what q is, but it decreases by 45%. That means 100% of my q is decreasing by 45%. Get it? And they said for every increase in value by x, where's our x? It's in the exponent right up there. All right. So this is part 1 of this question 23. It's really not hard, but I got to slow it down so you guys get it. So I'm going to take my q again. What is 100% minus 45%? That's going to equal 55%. And then I would multiply it times x, which would increase by 1 for every value. So far, I don't care about the x, right? All right. Then what's the next step? What's 55% in decimal form? That would be q times, again, what's 55% in decimal form? Remove the percent, move the decimal over twice. That would be 0.55 or 0.55. And don't forget to the x power. Take a look at your answer choices. Which ones are showing you 0.55 inside the parenthesis? Ain't this crazy? Which one is showing you 0.55 within the parenthesis? Only one of these. So C has to be the answer. Boom, baby. But what if, right? What if in answer choices A and B, either one of those, it also showed us a 0.55? What if they showed that to you instead of a 14 in there? Then what do? All right, now take a look at the rest of the question. This is what you would do. Let's say you saw A cannot be the answer, it doesn't have 0.55 inside, and D cannot be the answer because it doesn't show us 0.55 inside, right? So we're stuck between B and C. C looks juicy, but we're not too sure because we got a 0.55 inside the parentheses in B. Now what? Now the other part of the question, I'll underline in yellow. Q of 0 equals 14, right? So doesn't that mean that your x value would be 0? So I'm going to plug in 0. Whoops, I'm going to plug in 0 for my x value, but it's got to equal 14 at the end. So check this out. So if I took my q, my parentheses, 0.55, and I raised it, right, to the 0 power, they said it is going to equal 14. Okay, so first step, what is 0.5 to the 0 power going to equal? Anything to 0 power equals 1. So that means q times 1 equals 14, which means that q equals 14. If q equals 14, then that means we got our answer, ladies and gentlemen. That's 14, and that's 14. This guy is not 14, so good night. So D, I'm sorry, this is our 14. So C is our answer, and D's out because they show us a 1.45 within the parenthesis, which would mean a 145% increase, but in this case, we have just 0.55. Next question, number 24, slope context interpretation. All right, we know we're in question number 24, and we've noticed that questions 21, 22, 23 have been slick questions, so 24 is not going to be that obvious, but if we take a look at the slope-intercept formula, we may just look at it and say, oh, I can recreate the slope-intercept formula. There's my b or my y-intercept, so y equals mx plus b, and then I see that I got a positive 2, so y equals, what is my slope? My slope is going to be my rise over run. So I could take a look at this point at 2, go downstairs 1, and then go across 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So that means I'm going to have a rise of 1 over 4. And is it a positive or negative slope? No, it's a negative slope. So just looking at the image, I'd say, oh, I could figure out the y equals mx plus b formula. My line is a negative 1 over 4 x plus 2. And then I might just go to my answer choices, see it, and then bubble this guy in, which would be wrong. You can't jump to that conclusion. Because remember what question number you're on. When you're deeper in the test, more than likely, this is a baited answer. It could be correct, but now let's go into the question. Remember they told us They didn't give us the formula. We did figure out the formula. This formula is y equals a negative 1 over 4 x plus 2, which is the same as saying that f of x is equal to y equals a negative 1 over 4 x plus 2. That's your f of x, the entire formula, which is this guy right here. But, dun, 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 what did they show us? Plus 14. We didn't have any plus 14 up here. So that means they added another value to this graph. They said the graph is shown as f of x, which we figured out what the f of x is, but they added plus 14, which means that that black line, here, check this out. That black line wound up at the y-intercept of positive 2, right? But it was actually 14 points down. The formula plus 14 means it went up 14 points. So originally it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 points down. Oh, it didn't travel? There. It was 14 points down. Let me draw this black line a little bit longer. I'm going to put an extra hash and that hash right there. So it was at negative 12. Got it? That's where the line was originally, but it went up 14 points. You guys get the game? So then which one is the right answer? So the black line is crossing through the y-intercept at that point, which is a negative 12. So your slope did not change. So really it's y equals a negative 1 over 4 x minus 12. That is the function that we originally used before we raised it to 14. And so your best answer is, dun, 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 dun. Which one is it going to be? It's got to be this guy right here. Boop. All right. It's kind of confusing, but let me draw another XY plane so I can quickly explain it. I'm going to draw it a little higher like this. So we have our XY coordinate plane. Let's draw out this formula right here. So I'm going to go downstairs 12 times. So our y-intercept is negative 12. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Negative 12. So our line is going to start right here, and it's a negative slope. Up 1 over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's up 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Up 1 and then across 4. So it would be something like this. When I connect the two dots, my line goes like that. So again, that's what all of this represents. This formula is this business right there. This is what we just drew. The blue line. Bang. I'll change it to... Let's just change the entire thing to blue then. Okay. All right, cool. So our blue line is that. Now, if we took that formula and I wrote it as f of x, check this out, plus 14, that means I would have to write the entire formula as f of x, but I would have to add plus 14. When you have the entire formula, and again I'll write it, negative 1 over 4x minus 12, and then outside you have plus 14. Notice they didn't show it to you. They didn't show you the function. You had to come up with the function and then drop it down by 12. Here, we've got or drop it by 14. Here we have the plus 14. We plot this guy onto our xy coordinate plane. We got our blue line. Then when we add the 14, that blue line is going to go upstairs 14 points. You guys get it? And if you don't see it, I'll show you right now. Now I'm going to take that blue line and I'm going to make it go upstairs 14, positive 14. There we go. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And that's where that original line that they had shown us right there is right there at your positive 2. All right, dirty question. C is not the answer, but A is definitely the answer. That's where the line first started. It first started all the way downtown before it went up 14 points. And that's pretty much it. That's a dirty question. Get familiar with it, especially if you want to break your score into the plus 650 territory for math. All right, we got similar triangles and SOHCAHTOA involved. So we got geometry, no images are given to us, which is dirty. The side lengths of a right triangle RST are given. All right, these are your side lengths. Okay, so I'm going to draw a triangle. We got RS, which is the shortest length. I'll just call this. Now, drawing this could be a little tricky. So what if I just went like this? RS, and I put the T. They said that RS is 20, then ST is 48. Yeah, that's the second length, the middle length. So that's the shortest length, that's the middle length, and that's the longest length. So 52 should go out there for TR. All right, good, we're drawn. Now, is it a right triangle? I don't know. I don't want to jump to that conclusion. Let me just draw the images that they're giving us. Then they said that triangle RST is similar to triangle UVW. Now I'm going to draw a triangle for UVW. But you know how we drew RST, right? So we follow the same pattern. RST, UVW. Dig it? All right, so this means if they're similar triangles, this angle S is going to be the same as angle V. So I'll shade it blue. They share the same angle measurements. Angle R is going to be in proportion to the angle U. They'll be the same angle measurements. And then the last angle measurement, which I'll use for green, would be angle T, will be exactly the same as angle W. Now, in addition to having the same angle measurements, corresponding angle measurements, the lengths, if they're similar, must be proportional to each other. So for example, I could take, if they told me that UVW is smaller than RST, and they gave me a measurement of, let's say, UV is 10, then I notice that I have a 10 to 20 ratio. It's a 1 to 2 ratio, which means that my hypotenuse would be 1/2 of 52, would be 26, and my middle leg would be 1/2 of 48, which would be 24. That's an example of similar triangles where you have the length measurements are in proportion to each other. They cannot be exactly the same. If they're exactly the same, then they won't be similar. They'll be, what is that word called when they're exactly the same? They'll be, oh my gosh, I forgot the word. So the two triangles would be exactly the same, congruent to one another. So in this case, they didn't give us the measures for the second one, but they're asking you, what is the value of the tangent of W? Okay, now they're going to another level. Beyond having you know what the difference between congruent triangles are and similar triangles are, now they're going into SOHCAHTOA. So the tangent of W, where's W? It's this guy right here. The tangent of that is tangent, which goes with TOA, opposite over adjacent. So it would have to be the opposite of W, which they did not give us any measurements, but the tangent of W is going to be exactly the same as the tangent of T. Right? Because T and W share the same corner, they share the same angle measurements. So what is the opposite over adjacent of T, which will be the same as the opposite over adjacent of W? So what's the opposite of T? That's going to be 20. And what is the adjacent of T? That's going to be 48. So your answer is 20 over 48. You don't see a 20 over 48. So then we can assume that they've reduced it. We could use, I guess we'll use 2. So 2 goes in the 20 10 times, 2 goes in the 48 24 times. 10 over 24 would be the answer. Oh, we still don't have the answer. Maybe they reduced it a little bit more. 5 over 12. Ding dong. There you go. And that's your answer. Yes, it would have to be the exact same thing, 5 over 12. You don't believe it? Let's test it. Remember we said everything's in proportion to one another? So tangent of W, if I were to put 5, now what's the proportion? It's a 1 to 4 ratio. You guys get that? Okay, so what do we say the adjacent was? The adjacent is going to be 12. So that means it must also be a 1 to 4 ratio. 12 to 48 is also 1 to 4. And then if they ask us, oh, what's the length of UW? If they told us that we have 5 and 12, so then we notice a special triple triangle, so our hypotenuse would have to be 13. So 5, 12, 13 is a special triple triangle. If I took the measurements that are proportional to it or similar to it with the blue triangle, we have 20, 48, and 52. And you notice it was 1 to 4 ratio, 1 to 4 ratio, and 4 times 13 is 52. So your answer is 5 over 12 in the shorthand method. See how they mash up a bunch of basic concepts into one question? Dirty. Question number 26. 1 gallon of paint will cover 220 square feet. Did you notice 1 gallon to 220 square feet? So we got gallons to, I guess I'll put square feet, right? No, better yet, let me just put feet. Feet squared, right? Okay, so these are labels. So we got 1 gallon is in proportion to 220 square feet. Ta-da! Now, the second part. A room has a total wall area of W square feet. Where am I going to put that? I'm going to put it right down straight. I'm going to put W. Which equation represents the total amount of paint? Oh, total amount of paint. So that would be, I'll use P. They use P. I'm going to put P. P. In gallons, needed to paint the walls of the room. Ooh, dirty, dirty, dirty. Here it is. I'm going to underline in green, dirty. The room twice. Okay, back it up. What are we going to multiply by 2? A room has a total area, wall area of W square feet. All right. So we already know that 1 gallon of paint will paint 220 square feet. But they're asking, how many, if a room has a total area of W square feet, how many P gallons will be needed to paint the walls of the room twice? So that means it's going to be painting the room 2 times. That would be 2 times W. That's where that twice goes. And there you go. That's the slickness of the question. How do we solve this? You just cross multiply. So that would be 220 times P would be 220. P is equal to 2W times 1. So that would be 2W. And how do we solve for P? Notice each answer choice is solved for P. So that would be P equals, we have to divide both sides by 220. So that'd be P equals 2W over 220. And we could reduce this, right? So that would be equal to W over 110. So your answer, bam, is right there. Dirty. You know, this practice test is pretty good with the harder questions because the harder questions clearly show you this is a mashup of easy stuff, but all squeezed into one type of question. Let's go to what's considered the hardest question. Let me clean some of this stuff up. Now remember, whenever you're working through this, you don't have to watch the entire video. And unfortunately, if you have been watching the entire video as I explained this, then I apologize. But whenever you work these questions, always fool around with the document. Any question that gets you stuck, you stop and then you go cheat. Go straight to the video and see how it's done. Go straight to that question, not the entire video. That particular question, advance it, squeeze it back, or increase the speed to 1.5 times the speed and get your answer. Let's do this dirty question. The number A is 110% greater than the number B. What does that mean? So I'm going to interpret it in blue. The number A means equals 110% greater. Check this out. I'm doing parentheses. Didn't we see this a few questions ago? Check this out. 100%, right? Plus 110%. Then the number B. So A is 110% greater than the number B. Boop. Ta-da! Got it? All right, now the second part. I'll write it in red. The number B is 90% less than 47. Interesting. Here, let me put that B right there. I'm going to do another line. I'm sticking the B right below the B. They said is, that means equals 90% less. What does that mean? That's 100% minus 90% of what? Less than 47. Da-da-da! So now, if you can interpret those first 2 lines, the one in blue, the one in red, you're almost home. So what do we do first? Let's solve for B. So B is equal to, what is 100% minus 90%? That would be 10% of 47. All right, so what is 10% of 47? Or what is 0.10 times 47? We know that B would equal 4.7. Dun, da, da. Now we take that B equals 4.7, take that 4.7 and stick it right in there for B. So now we're going to have A is equal, what is 100% plus 110%? 210% times B, which is 4.7. All right, so I'm doing it longhand. I know I shouldn't have to do this because I know you guys get this already. So we get rid of the percent, that'll be 2.1, which is the same as 210% times 4.7. Then you take your trusty calculator, you take 2.1 and multiply it by 4.7. And what answer does it give you? Yep, A equals 9.87, which is the answer to this question. Very cool question. I like it. It's cool because once you show a student how to do it, then they get it all day long. All right, so watch this answer a couple times, and it's only going to take you a couple minutes, and then you'll understand how to set these guys up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any other questions, you contact me. Again, my number is 786-877-7231. If you're just coming across this video, it's been shared with someone you know, or whatever it is, you need documents, you need help getting ready for the next exam and beating the pants out of it. Remember, this is all about owning your mind. You own the mind that you possess, you will own the SAT rather than having the SAT own you. All right, peace out, kids.